An inheritance has been deeded to you, and you have been standing at the wrong counter trying to earn what is already in your name. Have you ever wondered why I ask you to give thanks before you see the miracle, not after it? Not because I need the praise, not because the gratitude convinces me to release the gift, not because my ear is flattered by the right tone of voice. The real answer is stranger and more beautiful than any of those, and right now, before this short message ends, I will walk you all the way to it and set into your hand a single sentence Peter wrote at my instruction to a scattered band of believers across what is now Turkey, a sentence that will hush, in this very hour, the quiet suspicion that the gift might not be coming. Sit close. None of this is in any rush. The inheritance is yours. The gratitude is the receipt. I see you. The waiting on your particular gift has gone on long enough that the waiting itself has begun to feel like the answer. Behind a mother's breastbone, an ache that no chart record sits next to the prayer for a child's healing. A young man once promised me, in a difficult year, that he would shout my name from rooftops if I would only open one door. And lately, in the quiet, he has begun to wonder whether the door was ever mine to open. A wife has been holding a private bargain with heaven. I will praise you loudly the day my marriage is restored. And the clock of that bargain has been running quietly past dusk for years. 3 streets away from her, a single father drops the same small petition into the dark before sleep and is no longer certain anyone is collecting it. An older one sits at a balance she cannot bring to zero by morning, half convinced the asking has become an insult to the one being asked. Not one of you is invisible. Every bargain has been counted. Every whisper has been logged. Your sister no longer asks how the waiting is going because the answer has always sounded the same. Your morning conversation with me has grown briefer, not because the love cooled, but because repeating the same hopeful line one more time has begun to feel like rubbing salt into an unhealed cut. Every shortened word has reached me. Every unspoken sigh has been stored where no thief can find it. No exasperation rises in me about how long this has taken. Tenderness rises. The very fact that you are still here, still listening, still hoping, is one of the most honest forms of worship I have ever been offered. Many louder believers have given up faster than you. I see the staying. I love the staying. The staying itself is a kind of altar, and I have been keeping company at that altar with you the whole way. There is more inside this waiting than the obvious part. You have been carrying a secret embarrassment about how transactional your praying has become, about how you have caught yourself, more than once, trying to phrase the request just persuasively enough to tip the answer in your direction. You have been carrying a quiet shame about every time you held back your thanks, because you did not want to release me from my side of the deal too early. You have been carrying the suspicion that your gratitude is a kind of currency, and that thanking me before the proof arrives would be either a hypocrisy or a foolishness, and you do not want to be guilty of either. Every one of those secondary loads has been counted with the rest. They are real. They have weight, and almost none of them came from me. Soften your gaze for one slow breath. You do not have to close your eyes if it is not safe where you sit. Simply let the focus loosen. Let the room you are in blur a little at its edges. Notice as the eyes unclench that the jaw also unclenches a small amount, and something inside the chest sits down. That small softening is not nothing. That softening is your body recognizing the presence of someone who is not asking for anything from you in this moment. I am not asking. I am giving. The gratitude that grows out of having received is a different kind of gratitude than the gratitude you have been trying to manufacture. and I want to teach you the difference. The transactional habit was not yours from birth. It was installed in you slowly. A parent, early on, made you believe that love had to be earned, and your young soul understood without ever being told that everything good came with a bill attached. Later, a religious teacher built an entire system around the formula, "Thank him loudly enough and he will provide," a formula that worked temporarily for the ones who were going to receive anyway, and broke the others without ever apologizing. Years afterward, a well-meaning neighbor told you that the saints I love most are the ones who praise me into existence, and so you began wondering whether your insufficient praise was the reason your prayer room kept staying empty. None of those teachers spoke for me. A few loved you and were forwarding what had been forwarded to them. Others borrowed the sound of my name on purpose, because a frightened giver gives more than a settled one. Either route produced the same falsified picture of gratitude as tool, as payment, as manipulation, and the picture was sketched by fingers that were never mine. Allow me to stand between you and a sound that has been speaking for me without my consent. That sound told you the saints who get the most answered prayers are the ones who say the most impressive thank yous. That sound implied that the language of gratitude is the language of the bank counter. That sound suggested that any thanks given, without the proof in hand, is a kind of dishonest praise, naive at best and cynical at worst. None of that came from me. Not one syllable of it. Real gratitude has nothing to do with bookkeeping. Real gratitude is the natural breath of a soul that has finally recognized what is already true about its standing with the Father. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that gratitude flows the way wages flow. Earn first, thank second. Never thank in advance, because to do so would be to forfeit your leverage. You were taught that my answers respond to the volume of your praise, the eloquence of your phrasing, the strategic timing of your worship. You were taught that an unanswered prayer must mean your gratitude was either insufficient or premature. You were taught that to be heard by heaven, you had to learn the right tone, the right vocabulary, the right posture. As if I were a difficult patron and not a father. That is not how anything in my house has ever worked. That has never been how anything in my house has worked. The portrait of me you have been carrying inside your chest, a father who waits to see how impressive the gratitude will be before deciding whether to release the gift, was sketched by hands that were never mine. Some of those hands meant well, and were trying to motivate you the only way they knew how. Others used the language of praise to extract from you. Either source produced the same falsified picture, and that picture has been costing you decades of intimacy with the actual me. Set it down for a few minutes. Lean it against the wall. I will describe now what gratitude actually is in my economy, so the next time the small whisper of thanksgiving rises in you, you will know what you are speaking. Gratitude in my house is not a payment. Gratitude is a posture. It is the posture of a child who has just discovered that the inheritance has been waiting in their name the whole time, and that the only thing left to do is walk into the storehouse and receive what is already deeded. A son who has discovered the contents of his own legacy does not flatter the lawyer. He simply walks in and runs his hands across what was always his. The thank you he offers afterward is not a tool. It is the natural overflow of an interior that has finally caught up with what the document already said. That is the gratitude I have been inviting from you, not the gratitude of the petitioner trying to talk me into something. The gratitude of the heir walking into what was always there. Hear that again in the slowest voice your ear can make. The thank you I have been listening for is not the thank you of a customer. It is the thank you of an heir. And an heir does not have to wait for the gift to arrive in order to recognize that the gift is already theirs. I want you to feel the weight of the difference. A petitioner stands at a counter and bargains. An heir walks through the door of the estate and receives. A petitioner crafts the right sentence in order to move the giver. An heir takes the small spoon from the kitchen drawer because the kitchen is already his. A petitioner trembles before each request, calibrating how much to ask for. An heir simply sits down at the table because the table was already set. The chair was already pulled out. The meal was already prepared in his name, long before he learned to spell it. The thank you of the heir is older and quieter than the thank you of the petitioner. And it travels much faster to my ear because it does not have to bargain its way in. What I want to do in your interior in this very hour is not to extract a more impressive gratitude. It is to transfer you from the counter to the inheritance. Once you have made that crossing, the thanks come on their own. You will not have to summon them. You will not have to time them. They will rise out of you the way breath rises out of a body that has stopped fighting the air. Stay with me. Do not skim the next sentence. Sit inside it for a heartbeat. That strange resistance you feel at the very idea of thanking me before you see the gift is not your honesty. It is the residue of every voice in your life that taught you that good things had to be earned. The resistance is old. The truth is older. The truth is that the gift has been in your name longer than the voices have been speaking. There is a line I want to set in front of you now. Receive it the way the original recipients did, not as a verse on a screen behind a worship band, but as ink on parchment, carried by a tired messenger across difficult terrain, unrolled in low-ceiling rooms by people who had already lost almost everything else. Peter wrote it at my instruction in a brief letter sent to believers scattered across what is now Turkey, through Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. They had lost more than the outside world will ever record. Homes had been forfeited after refusing to renounce my name. Mothers had buried children in towns where the doctors had run out of medicine. Fishermen had been driven off boats their grandfathers had bought because their public confession of me had become politically inconvenient. Names of merchants had been quietly struck from the rolls of Roman citizenship for speaking about a Galilean carpenter at the wrong dinner table. Displaced, demoted, mocked, taxed, and forgotten. From the outside, they looked like a community on the road to extinction. Picture one of those gatherings for a breath. Lamp oil running thin. A widow holding the hand of a young girl whose father had not come home from the harbor. A former tradesman whose tools had been confiscated. A merchant who used to be wealthy and now ate from a smaller bowl than his servants had owned. Around the low table, a single question pressed on every chest. Had he forgotten us? Had the legacy he spoke of been transferred to someone less troublesome? Was anything left for us beyond what was being taken from us every week? That letter arrived. It was unrolled and read by the same lamp. Inside it, at my instruction, Peter set down the sentence I want to put into your hands now, to carry for the remainder of your days. The line is not about how to bear loss with dignity. The line is about what cannot be taken, no matter what is being taken. It pointed, in that small upper room, straight at the place where their despair lived, and it points in this very moment straight at the place where the despair has been living in you. This is what I said. 1 Peter 1:4. To an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled and unfading, kept in heaven for you. Read it slowly with me. Each word in that sentence is doing work that a fast read will miss. Inheritance, the first word. Inheritance, not wage, not bonus, not earnings, not commission. An inheritance belongs to you because of who you are in relation to the owner, never because of what you produced this quarter. The deed was filed before you were born. Earning cannot bring it into being, because it already is. Underperformance cannot lose it, because it was never tied to your output. A revocation cannot reach it, because no failure of yours, no Wednesday doubt, no forgotten thank you, no exhausted month, is in the document of its title. The unbreakable fact of your belonging to me is what makes it yours. Stop reaching up for it. Reach down instead. It has been under your feet the whole way through. Imperishable. The second word. Nothing in it rots while it sits. Nothing in the storehouse spoils during your absence. The world around you trades in perishables. Bread stale by Tuesday, fruit soft by Friday, plans that expire when you fail to move on them by their hour. What I am keeping for you is built out of my own substance, and that substance does not spoil. A morning will not come when you walk in to claim it and find it diminished by the years of your waiting. The years subtract nothing. The decades do not soften the weight. On the morning of your arrival, it will be exactly what it was on the morning I first set it aside, undefiled. The third, your failures cannot pollute it. Every wage you have ever earned in this world was mixed with the contamination of how you earned it, the compromises, the resentments, the hidden costs. A legacy from me carries no such mixture. It was set apart from the beginning. Hands that prepared it were not yours, and so it bears none of the fingerprints of your weakness. Years you spent far from me put no stain on it. Seasons of doubt left no smudge. The hour last week when you nearly gave up did not mark it at all. It sits in the vault the way it has always sat. Clean, intact, ready, your name on the seal. Unfading. The fourth, its color does not dim in the dark. Treasure stored in a human house dulls when the curtains stay drawn too long. Cloth folded for years loses the brightness it had on the morning it was woven. Gold tarnishes, silver darkens. What I am keeping does none of these things during the long winters of your waiting. Its brightness owes nothing to your visiting. Its color does not pale because you forgot it was there. On the day you finally walk into the storehouse and lift it down, it will be exactly as luminous as the morning I set it on the shelf. And that morning was before the foundations of the world were laid. Kept in heaven for you. The last phrase. Kept. Held. Guarded. The verb is active. Someone is keeping. Someone stands at the door. This treasure is not in a wide open warehouse where any thief could wander in. A personal guard is on duty, behind doors only the Father has a key to. And the Father has not stepped away from the post for a single second since the deed was filed. In heaven, not subject to your economy, not subject to a currency that fails, not within reach of a corrupt official who could confiscate what has been promised to a tired child. For you, with your specific name on it, not transferred to someone more impressive while you were not looking, not in a generic pile of blessings handed out to whichever applicant prayed the loudest this week. For you, singular, personal, named. As I once said long before, every good and perfect gift descends from above, from the Father of lights, in whom there is no shifting shadow. Tuck that older promise next to the line Peter just put in your hand. The gifts that reach your fingers in this life are not random arrivals. They descend from a Father whose hand does not tremble in the giving. And what I am keeping for you in the vault is only the deeper version of every smaller gift you have already received from me. Same source, same giver, same goodness, on a longer timeline and a larger scale than your daily portion. Look back now at the question I asked at the start of this short message. Why does the Father ask for the thanks before the gift arrives? Here is the answer, and it has nothing to do with manipulation, performance, or payment. The thanks come first because the gift was already given. Your thanks are not the price of the inheritance. Your thanks are the signed acknowledgement of an inheritance that was deeded before you knew my name. A signed acknowledgement is what you hand back to someone who has already given you something. You do not sign for a delivery from a person who has given you nothing. You sign to confirm what has been transferred. When I ask you to thank me before you see the answer, I am not asking you to flatter me into action. I'm inviting you to sign for what is already in your account, signed itself in the blood of my Son, dated before the foundations of the world, sealed with my own name. The thank you is not the trigger. The thank you is the recognition. Sit inside that for a breath. Do not move past it too quickly. The thanks acknowledge what has already been done. The acknowledgement is not what causes the gift. It is what receives the gift. The transfer happened when my Son rose from the tomb. All that remains is for you to recognize what has been deposited into your name, and the recognition will come out of your mouth as gratitude long before any visible proof needs to arrive to confirm it. So here is something small you can carry into the rhythm of the coming week. Whenever you notice that strange flinch at the very idea of thanking me for what you cannot yet see, pose one honest question to yourself. Am I thanking him because I want something, or because something is already mine? If the answer is because I want something, you have caught yourself back at the counter, bargaining. Step away, take a breath. If the answer is because something is already mine, you have found the gratitude that opens hands to receive. Speak the thank you aloud, quietly is fine, and let it leave you. That sound is the sound of an heir. Pause briefly right where you are. Resist the urge to keep reading immediately. Most listeners are about to skim past one of the most important lines in this whole message. The gift is already yours. The signing is the only thing left to do. Linger here for the length of 3 slow breaths. The body learns from a pause what the mind misses in a sprint, as small, unexpected goodnesses begin to show up across your week. A kindness from a stranger, a knot that quietly unties, a peace at a dinner table that had not held one in months. Refuse the temptation to file them under coincidence. Speak under your breath, in whatever volume the room allows. The inheritance is showing. That short line is itself a whole posture. It trains the eye to register the first fragments of a legacy that is moving from vault into hand in installments. Welcome the fragments. Each one is a sample of what the rest of the storehouse is bringing. Should any of these words be settling into a hidden place inside you, leave the word thank below in the comments. Not as a slogan, but as the first stroke of an acknowledgement signed by an heir who has finally understood what has always been held in their name. Up in the pinned spot above this video, 7 short letters already wait. One to greet each of your next 7 mornings, sent into your inbox the moment a quiet yes lifts the latch. Take them. For the one bruised by prosperity teachers who promised that loud enough gratitude would guarantee a particular outcome by Friday, hear me. They were not lying about the existence of the inheritance. They were confused about its delivery. They borrowed the truth that a legacy is real and twisted it into a formula that an heir is somehow obligated to perform. You are not obligated to perform. The vault is yours whether you ever produce a single dramatic thank you or not. What I am inviting from you is recognition, not theater. The difference is vast, and you are free to step away from anyone who confused the two. Should you be the one who once thanked me in advance and watched the gift arrive in a form you did not expect and concluded the practice had failed, hear this. The delivery happened. It simply wore an unfamiliar wrapping. Some of what arrived in the season you thought I had defaulted was the formation of an interior strength you could not have grown any other way, the loss of a friendship that was costing you more than you knew, the slow opening of a door 3 corridors further down. The legacy was being paid out. The instrument you were holding could not register it. Bring the acknowledgement again. The Father has not closed your account. If your body has not healed on the timeline the doctors hoped for, the legacy includes the body, but not always on the body's schedule. Part of the healing I am working in you is happening in the soul inside the body, the deeper chamber where fear has lived as furniture for years. Many of the most whole people I have ever loved were people whose bodies were still ill. The body and the soul are different rooms in the same house, and I am at work in the room you forgot you owned. Thanking me for the healing. Already underway is not a denial of the body's pain. It is recognition that the healing has more chambers than the body alone knows to ask about. Perhaps you have watched another believer receive their answer faster than yours and wondered if you were overlooked. Their legacy is not your legacy. Their estate has its own deed, its own contents, its own timing, written for the life they were born to live. Their delivery and your delivery are 2 different wills written by the same Father for 2 different children. The contents of yours are no smaller because theirs arrived earlier. You are not behind. You are on the schedule that was written into your specific deed. If you are a parent, watching a child move through their own waiting season, the legacy includes them. Their healing, their return, their formation, their own slow recognition of what has been waiting in their name. All of it is held in the same vault. Your assignment is not to manage the delivery on their behalf. Your assignment is to keep signing your own acknowledgments where they can see you do it. A child has never been raised into trust by lecture. A child has been raised into trust by living near a parent whose mouth kept saying thank you for what could not yet be seen. Keep saying it. Let them hear it. What is in their name is mine to deliver, and I have not forgotten its date. For the one reading from inside a season of plenty, who has eased off the practice of advanced gratitude because the visible larder already looks full, receive this final note. Abundance has its own quiet risk. Inside abundance, an heir begins to forget the source, and the forgetting becomes its own quiet poverty, even amid overflow. Keep signing the acknowledgments through the comfortable years too. The thanks of an heir who keeps remembering the Father in a full season is exactly what keeps a legacy recognizable as legacy, instead of letting it slowly be mistaken for the work of your own hands. Do not measure this practice by what you feel on the first attempt. An interior, trained for years to believe the gift had to be earned, does not unlearn that lesson in an afternoon. The shift is slow, and the shift is real. Over enough weeks, the old bargain begins to lose its grip. The flinch at the very word, thanks in advance, becomes less sharp. A morning will come when you catch yourself thanking me for something that has not visibly arrived, without first rehearsing whether the thanks counts as hypocrisy. A further morning will come when you glance at your interior and grasp that the counter where you used to bargain has quietly emptied, and the dining room of the inheritance has quietly filled, and you have been eating at the right table for some weeks without noticing the change. Hear the mantra one final time, the way a friend repeats a true thing in the doorway before stepping back into the night. The inheritance is yours. The gratitude is the receipt. Keep those 2 short lines tucked along the inner wall of your week. Speak them under your breath at a red light. Press them gently against the chest when the old bargaining voice climbs back into its chair. Both remain true, whether or not your circumstances confirm them today. The vault asks for no verification. The Father at the door asks for no supervision. Both have always been mine to keep. The signing you are learning is not only yours, it is something the people who live near you are also going to feel. As your hands stop bargaining and start receiving, the climate of your household begins to change. Quietly, the way a room warms after a fire has been lit in the next room. A spouse who has been bracing against your anxious praying will feel the bracing become unnecessary. A child watching you face an unsolved problem will see your shoulders sit lower than they used to, and the child will absorb a new vocabulary about how a believer walks through hard weeks. The freedom of an heir is contagious. What you receive privately at the vault becomes part of what the next generation in your home learns to receive openly. When the visible gift finally arrives, and it is on its way, because what the Father deeds, the Father delivers, do not be surprised at how quietly it shows up. Most of my deliveries do not announce themselves with trumpets. A package set on the porch at sundown. A door that closes softly behind a long prayed-for return. A diagnosis revised in a phone call from a doctor who has no idea they were part of an answer. A reconciled sentence spoken at a kitchen table that had not held one in years. Acknowledge each one. Speak the thank you aloud, even if no other ear in the room can hear it. A small thank you is the language of the heir, and the heir is what I have been training you to be. Amen. If something here today reached the place where the longing has been living, 7 brief letters already sit ready inside the pinned comment beneath this video. One for each of the coming 7 mornings, dropping into your inbox the instant a quiet yes opens the door. Receive them. Pass this along to someone whose hands have been bargaining when they were always meant to be receiving. Tap subscribe so tomorrow's word reaches your feed before the old habit of the counter does. No heir was meant to walk into this kind of inheritance by themselves.